All right, I'm gonna check some audios, hit the go live on the Facebook, checking on the YouTube, see if everything came in decent tonight. Hopefully, YouTube's all solid, and on Facebook, that's all good too over there. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to Whitetails and Whiskey Podcast, episode number 25 is what we're up to right now. So, halfway to 50. And with this snowy night, I figured it'd be a good night for Nate to stay home, all that good stuff, and not have anybody out braving the elements, so to speak, with this. That way people can enjoy it just from their comfort of their own home, and I'm sure they'll tune in. Nate and those guys and anybody else who's been on the show in the past. I didn't want to drag anybody out, like I said, tonight through all this crap. Had to bring my wife back from Hobart. She was doing fire drills and stuff like that. So I actually was bringing her back this evening from Hobart. So the roads are not that good tonight, guys. So if you don't have to go anywhere, don't go anywhere. Stay in and enjoy the Whitetails and Whiskey podcast. So, a couple things. We're going to keep doing our Fresh Crack Fridays. We filmed a couple ahead on those. And I figured it'd be fitting because of what's going on in the Fresh Crack. So check out the video and you'll kind of see why we're doing, or what I am doing, what I'm doing tonight. I'm doing a little bit of a blind taste with two different single barrels, and we'll explain that. But I wanted to kind of touch on the hunting and what I've been up to kind of side of stuff. Just had my MRI for my arm today. So just waiting to see what the doctor says, if I need PT, if I need surgery or whatever on my elbow, nerves and tendons or whatever. Doesn't think there's any muscle tears, but he doesn't know if there's any tendons that, got overextended or stretched, snapped, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So I'm waiting to hear back from Dr. Becker. And we'll get the full diagnosis for my arm and how long I'm out for. I had to give it a bail on the archery leagues, unfortunately, this year, which kind of stinks because I was sitting in like second or third place, but Nate's making a good tear on that, so everybody wish Nate good luck in the archery leagues. He's been shooting really, really good. I think he's got the best overall right now, but on average, there's a guy that's a couple points ahead of him, but he hasn't shot. He shot 2 less weeks, I think, than Nate right now, so Nate's set up really good to do really, really well with the archery leagues this year. So sending good vibes to the Nader. On Tuesday nights, I still go over there and hang out and keep scores and all that stuff and hang out with everybody. Get a little bit of work done, do a little bit of email responding, phone call responding, stuff like that too. So almost kind of use it like office time and just social time with friends and stuff over there. Other than that, I got a couple sheds here. I found a few this year, couple freshies. This is one Bear found. If you saw the video on YouTube, this is the one that Bear found out in that one food plot, and was a good find for him. And then when I was out with my wife, we found this one. Nice little, I'm pretty sure this is actually off a 1.5 old, so a really nice 1.5 old buck that I'm looking forward to seeing over the next couple of years if he hangs around. And then I found this oldie kind of on the edge of the field and some goldenrod and stuff like that. So nothing big from my property. Have a client in 8J that's letting me do some shed hunting and stuff like that for him. So I'm just been over there the last 2 days. Me and Nate found 2 1.5 olds over there. And then I was over there today before the snow hit, found 2 deadheads, one from this deer season and then one from, I think, the summer, kind of judging by how white he was, but still was this year's dead. I found one old shed, one smaller old shed, and then I actually found this one, which has been my best one I picked up all year so far. So real nice 4-point side, but this was old. This was all under leaves. The only thing sticking up was this little beam tip. Textbook spot where he jumped a log, and it laid right on the other side of that log. And that's where it was laying. right in the deer trail, right on the other side of the log, like they tell you to look for. And that's the first one I've found at a log jump. Just happens to be, but that's probably, I don't know, 3-4 years old. It's got some cracking up the tines and stuff like that. So, but a cool shed, and yeah, just a nice one. One I haven't been able to get to the landowner yet because I just found it today. But I figured it'd be a cool one to talk about tonight on the podcast. So that's it's kind of been the last couple days. Bear Pup's been good. He was way off to my side. Literally, I stepped over a log. It was, I don't know, big around as my waist, just laid across the trail. Had dropped a couple years ago, and that shed was laying right on the other side of that. So that was cool. But Bear was like 20 yards off to my left, kind of working through some thicker brush and stuff like that. That's why he didn't pick up that one. But he found the big deadhead today. If you want to, that one's up on the YouTube page, as well as the small shed and the smaller deadhead I found on that client parcel today. So if you want to go check that out, he's got really cool, gnarly character. We'll see if that one, it should do pretty well in the Pert Near Shed Fest for deadhead with the character and everything it's got going on. Really, really unique buck. Big, spike on the one side, nice 4-point side on the other with a bunch of gnarly kind of stuff on his brow tines. Just a really cool looking buck, and one that was cool to find. Bear found him. Seems to find a big one dead every year, last couple of years. So last year it was that 145 that he found over at my grandmother's. And, this year it was that one. I haven't obviously put a tape to him. I just found him today. But Bear's learning. He's doing good. Like I said, he picked these guys up at the ones at the farm this year. And then he found the deadhead over at my client's today. So he did real well. And I've been kind of laid up and can't do anything physically strenuous or anything like that or lifting. So getting out in the woods, walking around is about the only thing I can really, really do. So taking it easy and just waiting for, Dr. Becker to give me the do's and don'ts and when I can go back and all that good stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of the stuff going on. I think it's still a little early for sheds. We still have 20-ish, maybe 30% of our bucks still holding. These ones were just kind of outer boundary sheds, by neighboring pieces that I know they shed hunt, or some people do shed hunt neighboring pieces. And I just kind of wanted to get that shed hunted so I don't have any prying eyes, so to speak, before I get out there. So I usually walk the property lines, gives me time to check my posted signs, all that good stuff too, and make sure that they're up to par for turkey season, which is coming up real quick. Starting to see some birds around and all that good stuff. So yeah, we're just plugging along, getting ready for the big go on shed season, coming up. And, we'll see. We'll hopefully add to the pile. I think I'm up to that six total sheds, 7 if you count the one that Nate found, and then 2 deadheads so far. So not too bad, pretty decent start. Don't know if with shed hunting a couple clients this year and helping them out, do some shed hunting. I'll see if maybe I can get, some really decent numbers this year, but I'm not expecting a whole lot on our piece. We were fortunate enough this year, shot a lot of deer. Neighbors shot a lot of nice bucks too. So the shed numbers probably aren't going to be as flush as they normally are just because there's not as many bucks as there is normally getting through the season. But we'll see. Got some up-and-comers over the next couple of years and interested in see how they develop and grow with it. So that's kind of talking on the whitetail side of it. But tonight for the whiskey, if you've been checking out our Fresh Crack Friday videos, which are all up on our YouTube channel in the Fresh Crack Friday playlist, you'll see that this John J. Bowman, that's drunk down pretty good right now, has been, tearing the snot out of, I think, the last 4 weeks or so for the ones, and it just keeps winning. So what I went out and did is today, after my MRI, I was down in Geneva, and one of the places I check out once in a while when I'm over there, really, but I don't get to Geneva that much, is Saglin Bellies, and I hope I'm saying the last name right. That's a nice little store there, real nice owner, everything like that. Talking to him, he was real interested in the podcast and talking to me, so that was really cool. And I found that he had a John J. Bowman up on the shelf, which is one we talked about that we haven't been able to find anywhere else. So I had to pick it up, and this one ran me $60.10 after tax today. So to be fair, I wanted to check. They're not the same lot numbers from the ID stamps on the bottom, but I wanted to pour them out and see if we got similar tastes, different tastes. They are both single barrels, and they're both from different barrels. So I'll be very interested in both of these. The one that Keith got me down at, I can't remember even what the name of the liquor store is down there in Cheshire. This one was dusty, and this one was also dusty. And my wife said that you can't be saying that when you pick up a bottle from an owner and say, oh, this one's dusty. And I said it with a smile on my face, and that's because if you're out there and you're looking for a particular bottle, you just happen to find one, and then it's dusty, signaling that it's been there for a while, and people have kind of passed it over, because it's not Blanton's or Weller's or, one of these other ones. But this one has beaten Blanton's, it's beaten Weller, it's beaten all those ones. So again, it's been a heck of a bottle, and I'm curious to see how it stands up next to this other single barrel. It'd be really cool. Was going to fresh crack it for that, and whatever one wins will be the one that goes into the infinity bottle. So that's kind of how I gauged it. But before we dive into the whiskeys and taste them a little bit, and check a couple comments over on the Bullhorn side. Got a listener, no comments in right now. YouTube looks like it's a little laggy tonight. Got nothing going on the YouTube side, and Facebook looks a little glitchy, maybe a little laggy tonight too on the video side, but hopefully the audio is coming in nice and clear for everybody. My wife says go Syracuse Orange. They're cheering upstairs right now. My father-in-law and his mom are up there, big Syracuse fans, trying to give good vibes for Syracuse against Clemson tonight. So 100% go Orange. Ed Land tuning in says checking in from Finger Lakes Deer Hunters Group. Hey Ed. Tried to check in from the Bullhorn app and have a hard time to jump back to Facebook to check in, but having a hard time. I don't know if we're having some issues with the Bullhorn app or whatever. That's usually what I stream it through just for ease of it. But we'll see. Going forward, the Bullhorn's really nice though, because I can download all the episodes, put them up on YouTube and all that stuff after I'm done with them. So that makes it really nice and really convenient for me. So what I've done, and I'll mix them again because it's going to make a difference. I mixed these up for like the last 30 minutes. I've been sitting here just mixing them back and forth dozens and dozens of times. I don't know which one's which, but you see they have these nice little name tags on them. This is bottle A, and this is bottle, there's the B. So this is the Great Whiskey Challenge set. This is something I got for a gift not too long ago. So I'm interested in checking this out and trying these blind. And what's really cool is you can keep them A, B. This is how we did the TikTok videos talking about, kind of battling the top 10 beginner whiskeys for your budget bar for $300. Going to film one of them tomorrow with the snowy day and see how it goes. But so we'll see. Again, I don't know which one of these is which. So with this one, I'm getting a lot of apple, like nice sweet green apple kind of smell. And I think I've got that from the one Bowman before, but I don't know about this one. We'll see. And then this one tastes more honey to me. It smells more honey. So based off of what I know about the bottle, this bottle, we've called this a honey, very sweet bottle, but really nice flavors when we've been tasting it in the fresh cracks. So I'm thinking that this is going to be A and this is going to be B. But that's the thing about these blind tastings is you can think that you know what it's going to be, but at the same time, you don't know till it's done. So, and there's some really cool things there. Keith's been the one doing my fresh cracks with me, and he's been just getting into bourbon, so it's really cool to get a different personality and a different perspective on this stuff. Him being kind of a Scotch guy, he brings a little bit different kind of flavor and input into it, which is really cool. But he really digs the Bowman, so we'll see. Yeah, that's like nice, fresh green apple peel. That smells amazing. And like I said, just because I know how the other one smells and tastes a lot because we've been drinking it a lot for the fresh crack, that's honey. I'm thinking that this is going to be A and this is going to be B. But again, until I taste them, I'm not sure. Let me get my water ready. Yeah, my arm's really tired after sitting in that MRI for 30 minutes today, having them take all their scans and stuff like that. So, alrighty. So, we'll go with glass number 1. Again, I don't know which one this is. So, I get some honey with this. And I almost get maybe a pear, like a seckel pear I've talked about before. Kind of smell with this one too. And that is my first whiskey of the day, and that bit a little harsh. So the Bowman is a 100 proof product. Both of these bottles are bottled at 100 proof. So, we'll see how it goes. And I know there's not a lot of folks, or there's not as many folks that hang out here for the whiskey stuff as much as the deer stuff, but I think this is cool. And again, I'm getting kind of that seckel pear, I call it, that wild pear smell with that, and a little bit of honey in that first glass. Yeah, this is like a green apple, like apple peel, maybe a little bit of artificial apple, like an apple Jolly Rancher, maybe. I guess if you're kind of equating it to a candied smell, but it's not really candied. I get more of that fresh green apple peel. Really sweet in the front, and then has almost a little sour note with that second glass and the second part of it. So we'll let them sit for a little bit. Like always, this is a live Q&A for folks. So if you have any questions about whiskey or whitetails or any kind of that habitat stuff, feel free to drop them in, and we'll get to them throughout the episode and stuff like that. TSI, I've had to actually cancel a couple of my TSIs. And unfortunately, just because I can't really cut right now with my arm, it's really I have to really focus turning this glass in my hand right now, because this just doesn't want to work, having nerve shit going on with it. So, we'll see. It has good days and bad days. So we'll see if there's any tendon damage, but we'll know once that MRI comes back. So go back to glass number 1, give it a taste. Nice rounded honey flavor with that. Sweet. Really sweet caramelly. I think, like I said, with the nose and the taste, I think this is going to be bottle A. And so what I'm doing is I'm smelling the whiskeys, and I'm drawing on similarities from what I might know, whether it's like a certain food smell, is what I tell people to think of a lot. Keith said that he got grape marker on one the other day. Whatever you can put those smells to, that's going to help you pick up different smells and different tastes as you really question yourself. Okay, well, what's that smell, or what kind of smell is it? And that'll help you try to break down these whiskeys and figure out what you like in different families of the whiskeys as well. So, yeah, that's like nice green apple. Maybe like a Jolly Rancher green apple. And so you can smell the bottom of the glass, top of the glass. You'll get a little bit different stuff out of that too, to help you out and figure it out. I like this one just because the simple fact that it's got a little bit more punch. It drinks more like 100 proof than this one, being a little bit sweeter, a little bit more honey, kind of caramelly kind of flavor. This one with that apple and then that tart, it gives you that nice proof bite with it. Both of them are very, very good, but it just goes to show you single barrel products like this, just because you get one single barrel you really like, you might get a completely different single barrel if it's not from that same batch. So, and I checked the batch numbers on the bottom; they are not from the same barrel. So this is really cool to show the difference between the two for folks that might not know that with different whiskeys and stuff like that. So, but no, they're both really good. Really enjoy them. Um, yeah, that's pear, kind of honey sweet. You know, I call it flower pollen sweet sometimes too. You get kind of a floral polleny smell. They're both very nice. I mean, both of them I think drink right in that $50-$60 price point where they are at. If you can find them, I think it's a great one to have on your shelf, especially if you don't have a Virginia whiskey. So these are made by Sazerac, to my understanding, and then shipped off to Virginia, where they distill them again in their big copper pot still, and then they bottle them up. So it's pretty cool that it's a Virginia company. They redistill it after it's produced at Buffalo Trace. So I'm seeing if there's any different stuff on the back. Yeah, so I know it's, like I said, I know it's originally distilled in Kentucky and then shipped over to Virginia for them to finish, redistill it, and then obviously barrel it up and bottle it. But really cool. These could have been out of different rick houses, where they aged their whiskey, different floors. Barrels could have been right next to each other, and they're going to taste completely different from the different oak that it's in, the different temperatures that it's going to get inside and outside, stuff like that. So it's just really cool when you come to think about it with the whiskey and stuff like that, how much it can change from bottle to bottle is because it can change a lot barrel to barrel. So both very, very good. Again, I don't think you could tell me if you put these blind and said, are they from the same distillery? I don't think so. Just because of the flavor differences in them. There's not an underlying tone I'm getting with both of these. The smell is not the same. The taste is definitely completely kind of different. This is like that sour, sweet kind of taste. And this one is just kind of honey and caramel, kind of flavors. And when I say honey and caramel, it's not like taking a spoonful of honey or, a caramel covered apple or something like that. We're trying to relate what I'm tasting or little bits of what I'm tasting back to, stuff like that to talk about with it. When you hear somebody saying that, it's not like, oh yeah, I'm just drinking caramel and honey. You got to think of it in terms of I'm getting little hints of that. And that's where you're going to get that flavor and kind of can get to enjoy some of the whiskey and bourbon and stuff like that by picking it up and letting it be a challenge for you. And that's what I really like for it. It looks really nice in the glass, real good color. It's just, yeah, that honey is right there. I'm thinking that this is going to be the A1. They both do have that mid-range, that mid kind of palate bite that's kind of similar to them, but the flavor profiles aren't the same, so it's very different. But yeah, this is apple, like apple all day. An apple, mid-proof bite. Again, I'm going with the second one going into the infinity bottle tonight. So let's see what the bottle number is. And this is, like I said, this is the beauty of these blinds. The apple I got from number 2. It just goes to show that the thing's still a killer. This one is glass number 2. This is letter A. Letter A. So letter A is still winning the fresh crack this week's episode. We'll see how it turns out this week. Let me try to think which one's going to be coming up for the fresh crack this week. We have the Old Elk Weeded is coming up against it this week. So, and again, it beats out the other Bowman Single Barrel. They're both good, but this one I got a lot of apple on tonight, which I don't know if I've got apple before with that one. So very weird, very weird. So now that we've talked enough whiskey for tonight and everybody's left the show, let's check the comments. Mark says, "What's your take on planting chestnut trees for whitetail and turkey?" I've planted some chestnuts, hybrid chestnuts, and stuff like that. They're producing. They've been producing very well the last 2 years. They've had nuts on them. You typically have male and female trees, so you have to plant them in groups or clusters, groves, whatever you want to call it, so you can have the right male and female, obviously, to make your nut. So we have them. The deer love them. Turkeys really like them too. If the squirrels don't get to them first. The squirrels are really prolific at whacking them, but there wasn't a single chestnut left under the trees, and they had a couple dozen on them each. They're still pretty young trees. I have to look back at my notes to see when we planted those, but those are in one of our food plots. Is where we have most of our chestnut trees planted. So I like planting chestnuts. Have to have a little bit more well-drained soils typically. They don't like wet feet as much. And like I said, planting them in clusters or groves so you can make sure you have males and females so you can make chestnuts, because that's the whole goal of it. So typically I suggest planting in 5s or 6s. That way you get an accurate mix of males and females and stuff like that. And all it takes is one male to pollinate all your female trees, really. So just like another one that you need to have for cross-pollinating typically is apples and other fruits like persimmons, pears, stuff like that. But yeah, chestnut trees are a great addition to it, great hard mast. Like I said, the deer really do like them a lot. And I think it was 2 years ago we started getting chestnuts on our trees. So we can actually look at getting some videos of those chestnuts this year. I got to clean them up this year. They got a couple more years before the tubes come off completely, but they're doing really well. Some of them are 15 foot tall or better now. So yeah, I'm thinking of that whole grove there along that west border of that field. Those all do really well. I think I have three females in that cluster of 5, I think. And they're all 1, 2, 3. And then the 2 on the end, I'm not sure if one's a male. At least one's a male, obviously. But I'm not sure. I think one might have been a female too. So I might have 4 females and a male. I might have got lucky on that. But you can have 4 males, 1 female with those. So that's the thing with chestnuts. Always plant them in groves, and that way you can make sure that you have chestnuts. Aaron says, any luck planting persimmon trees? Yeah, so I'm working with the Blue Hill Wildlife Nursery. He's actually got what's called the tin cup persimmon, which is a persimmon tree that he's grafted. It's a self-fertile persimmon, which is the only one that he really knows of, the only one that I've ever heard of in any of my research. And with that one, you don't need a male and female. It's a self-fertile varietal of persimmon. So that's something that's really cool. It's obviously good in my grow zone, South Central Wayne County. For anybody that wants to try to compare grow zones and see if it works for them. I know he's working on getting up a lot of stock right now, working with rootstock to make sure he clones the tree effectively. He's going to come out and get some cuttings this year, take a property tour and stuff like that when he comes up and around. I think he's coming late March or April. And we have a couple other apple varietals that he might take some cuttings off too to develop a couple wildlife apple trees and stuff like that from different varietals that we have around. So, phone's ringing. Must be I got some phone calls to make when I get off of here. But so yeah, Aaron, I have planted one clone, I guess you could call it, of that persimmon right next to my parents' house. The other one's on our property. And like I said, it's pretty rare to have a self-fertile one. Like I said, typically got to plant them in groves, or they, might have a female that might produce a fruit, but it might not fruit as heavily, as if it was pollinated effectively. So Yeah, having a self fertile varietal is really really unique in something like that, and that's why I reached out to Ryan over there at Blue Hill, and I'd see if he's got any still. I know they go fast. I know there's a bunch of other people that are waiting for him or in line for him right now. So, uh, yeah, the persimmons are really cool. My wife doesn't like them. I actually enjoy eating them, especially after that first frost and stuff like that. They are absolutely delicious. Um, the deer typically don't let them lay on the ground very long. Pick them right up, and it's actually right pretty close to a residence where it's located. So um, it's I don't know. It's not within legal. It's within illegal shooting distance, if that makes sense of where it's located. But it doesn't matter. The deer still clean it up. Raccoons love it a lot too. Um, haven't seen turkeys under it, but being next to a house like that, they might be a little skittish. But those persimmons, they're really nice. They're about maybe a little bit bigger than a golf ball or so. And what's really cool about that persimmon is if we don't get heavy frost and heavy snows, it usually hangs fruit into January and sometimes February. If we get just regular snowfalls and stuff like that, it doesn't typically drop its fruit until later on in the season, or kind of drops it staggered, which is another really good thing for a wildlife tree. That it doesn't just drop everything in September. Like some of the early varietals of fruit trees, you get kind of staggered dropping as the season goes. They hang very, very long on the tree. And like I said, that's nice too, because when you have that staggered dropping and the deer know, or the wildlife know it's a staggered dropping, they will continually come back to check that tree. That's why I also recommend, if people are planting a orchard or a grove of trees, having something in that grove that's always producing or always dropping. That way that food source is constantly providing throughout the season. You don't just have deer come in for September time frame and then they're like, well, there's nothing else underneath it for the last 2 months, so we'll just not stop by it on the way to a food store, on the way to a food plot or Destination Ag or Oak Flat or whatever it might be that they're stopping into your orchard at. So yeah, checking over on the YouTube side, looks like our flow is getting a lot better on our streaming. Nothing on the bullhorn right now, nothing on the YouTube right now. So yeah, but no, the persimmons, again, make sure your site's right. The persimmons typically don't tolerate, most trees that provide mast, except like white oak maybe, really do like more of a well-drained soil, loamy soil kind of location. So make sure they have the right soil location for them. Make sure they work for a hunting standpoint for you, especially if you're spending the money on a fruit tree or a mast tree that you're putting in. Make sure it works from a hunting standpoint, or on a line of movement between bedding going to a long-term food source that takes it by a hunting location. Make it make sense with the way that's laid out and designed on your property. Otherwise, you're just kind of planting trees out there to plant them. And don't get me wrong, I love planting trees. I've planted a lot of them. But there's some where I wish we had done a little bit more strategic thinking with them and laid them out in according to a movement, rather than just maybe dumping them all on a food plot. Maybe kind of have them filter back toward a bedding area off of that food plot. So it kind of draws movement through that location that you can hunt, get off while they're out on food or Destination Ag, whatever it might be. And you hunt them on their way through, or you hunt them on their way maybe coming back through or across it. So make sure your plantings work from a site location for the soil and a site location for your hunting opportunities. And then take good care of them. Tube them if they are trees that are appropriate to tube. Make sure that it's, make sure that it's prep soil underneath it. So make sure that you can weed it or spray it without harming or killing your tree. Check your tree tubes this time of the year to make sure mice haven't built homes in them and girdled your trees, especially fruit trees. They love girdling young fruit trees. And then this time of the year, like always, we'll do a pruning video this time of the year. That's pretty standard for the YouTube channel. So that'll be on the Whitetails and Whiskey one and the Old Tin Cup one, which is where it's been in the past. But now that'll be cross-posted on both of these to help people with the management side of stuff, going back and forth. So had a comment roll in, heard the ding. Dave says, "Hey Ben, is it worth hinge cutting a healthy ash tree, or should I just remove it altogether?" So this is a good topic for hinge cutting and stuff like that. Typically, I tell people you can accomplish most of what you're trying to do with dropping a tree with a hinge cut that you can do with just dropping it. And dropping it's a lot easier and safer, in my opinion, than a hinge cut with a face cut and a flat back cut. If it's a healthy ash tree, you can remove it. They are safer to drop when they are completely healthy and not all peppered to snot and real brittle and dying. I would say kind of look at the situation, Dave, with that ash tree and what you're trying to do with it. If you're trying to let some sunlight in, drop some browse down for them, absolutely you could just face cut it and fell it. If it's getting to the size where it's a little bit bigger around or half again as big as your leg, typically I don't recommend hinge cutting that at all for any reason. They get really prone to breaking, really prone to snapping off, everything like that. So it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do with it. And if you're trying to like block a trail or let sunlight in, if you're just looking, like I said, I saw your comment come in, want to let some sun in, face cut and drop it whatever way you can safely get it down to the ground with a flat back cut. If you're just looking to open up the canopy with that cut. So I think a standard face cut is more than applicable. And I know there's some guys that do a lot more heavy duty hinge cut beddings and stuff like that. What I've found, and especially in some of the southern tier ground or maybe ground areas where there's not as much agriculture, especially more woods or more woodlot type stuff, the thicker it is, unless that's the only cover in the area, they'll use like adjacent sides of it, but they won't go bed in it. A lot of the times they'll cut through it and stuff like that, but a lot of times you won't find bedding or create bedding if you don't have ways to escape out of it. I kind of talk about a wagon wheel type approach with it, where you leave the center of the bedding area, and this sounds a little silly, leave the center of that bedding area relatively uncut. And then you cut spokes and lanes out of it, laying trees perpendicular, not parallel to what deer movement you want them to exit with. And then if you're trying to continue that movement, let's just say toward a stand location, extend that cutting out, further from that bedding area, laying stuff perpendicularly rather than parallel. Don't feed them in, and don't try to get them in a narrow little cattle chute and stuff like that. They won't use it, or especially won't use it during the daylight as much if they feel boxed in, unless it's like super heavy pressure and the only cover in town. That's where it might be the extreme example where they will use it. But if you have relatively low hunting pressure, you just need a little bit of side cover with that sunlight coming in. And like I said, most of that you can do it pretty easily with just doing some TSI, kind of just felling cuts and stuff like that. Let some sunlight in, put the trees in the appropriate directions too, making perpendicular, drops off of that line of travel you want to create. And that's where I've seen the best success with it. Don't try to just make a big mess. Sometimes I will just make a huge gnarly mess if I want to make a roadblock or whatever it might be, or screen maybe a little bit of access to a tree stand that you might need to kind of expose yourself to get across an area. Sometimes I'll just make a big, tenth of an acre, 15th of an acre, something like that. Just a big gnarly tornado zone or something. I've heard like Jim Brocker call it. Just to really just not let any deer come through there. And that's because it's just too tangled. There's no trails cutting through it, no nothing like that. And you can also, if you drop something and it doesn't drop exactly where you want it, you can cut holes in it and gaps in it, and move material out of the way and stuff like that. So wedges are your friend when dropping timber. especially this time of the year when there's not as much leaf canopy up top to give them that leverage weight. Habitat hook, if you are going to try to bring them down in a direction they might not want to go as regular, or as they may not want to lean that way or top heavy that way. Sometimes you can kind of fudge that a little bit with a hook and wedges. But again, be safe, be smart with it. I have a habitat hook that's got a pretty good kink in it. When I was pulling down a tree and it, decided it was going to go, and I got out of the way, and the hook took the brunt of the fall of the tree, bent a little bit. So that's why I always usually do work with two of them. That way, if you get one, in a pocket, or one that gets a kink in it and you got to kink it back, or, mess around with it and pound on it a little bit, you can't be done for the day. You can grab the other hook and get back to moving on it. So, but those are really nice. Those are made by Nations Creations. So those are really good tools. I do use the habitat hooks a lot, but not usually, as much as you might think with hinge cutting, because I don't do a whole lot of hinge cutting unless it's, sometimes I might say it's a hinge cut, but sometimes I'll just back cut a tree just to get it dropped down. If it's small, 4-inch tree or something like that, and I got to drop it to block a trail, I might hinge it or something, but the goal is to just get it down. I don't feel like making a face cut on a 4-inch tree. So that's another thing where, I've been out cutting before for people, and, they've asked me, well, why'd you hinge cut that one? Well, I didn't hinge it. I just didn't want to put a face cut in it. I just back cut it and pushed it over, So it depends for your hinge cutting and stuff like that. But like always, like we talked about brand last week, chainsaw chaps, helmet, proper safety gear, sharp chain on your saw. It's going to help make your day a lot easier running it, and make it a lot safer as well. So make sure you got, like I said, the right equipment running for you. Another good topic is I wouldn't go with a big farm boss, especially if you're going out to do habitat work. You can do a ton of work with just a 16-inch bar. You don't need a big 22, 24-inch bar or something crazy. Usually I don't bring anything unless I know I'm dropping bigger trees. I usually don't bring anything bigger than a 16, maybe an 18-inch bar on the saws I run, just because you typically don't need it. If you think about it, you should be able to drop a 30-inch tree with a 16-inch bar and going side to side. So not that I recommend you go out there and cut 30-inch trees. I would check the timber value on that tree before you're dropping it. But there are extreme cases where, just for example, like I said, you can cut side to side, make your faces, make your back cut with a 16-inch bar to get a 30-inch tree on the ground. So just saying. But yeah, so wouldn't necessarily lean on hinge cutting a lot. It does have a place and a purpose. Just like I had somebody tag me in a comment today about prescribed fire. And one, it's not that readily, easy to use here in New York as prescribed fire. But the other thing you get with prescribed fire is you get a lot of forb growth, which is very good for summertime and stuff like that. But that's not our time of the year when the deer really need food as much. I mean, we have a ton of food here in the summertime, but it's that woody browse, it's berry bushes and shrubs and stuff like that feed them throughout this wintertime, especially if you don't have a lot of food plots in your area or your food plots are cooked right now. This upcoming year we're going to do corn is a big proponent of what we're doing. Again, we got to sub out some of our brassica plots because of white spot fungus, and corn's going to be a big factor in that, getting some of these plots put in the corn for, probably 2 years, and, getting some good production out of them, in the meantime with it, best we can, and hopefully have some standing grain. I was over a client piece, and the corn that's still left over there is amazing. There shouldn't be any animals on that property, deer, turkeys, songbirds, squirrels, raccoons, whatever. Anything that would eat corn, there shouldn't be an animal starving out there this year, just because there's so much of it out there. And it's holding up really well. We're probably going to have some volunteer corn out there this year. Wouldn't surprise me. We'll see what he wants to do with it. I know it was a big expense putting in, corn this year, with the cost of, fertilizer and, Roundup and stuff like that. And then obviously corn seed is not expensive either, or not cheap either. So, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I was expecting to find uh, some sheds out in that corn that was put in out there, and I just think it's so darn hard, and it was really breezy today. I'd rather go on a nice light wind day with Bear when he can use his nose a little bit and do it. And also, I got to remember, if I do, brush hog it down for him, if I end up being the guy that's brush hogging it this upcoming year with it again, got to remember to brush hog it lower and not just brush hog it at like knee height. Brush hog it down all the way. That way you can see where areas that cut it twice, it's much nicer. You could see a shed laying in that. But the stuff where I chopped it and it's almost knee high chopped, it's tough. It's tough to find a shed in it. But there's plenty of corn out there and spillage for the wildlife right now. Definitely nothing's going hungry. So, but yeah, good questions and good comments with the chestnut trees, persimmon trees, and the timber stand stuff. All that stuff's readily available right now. A couple of the other plots we'll probably be doing some frost seeding in, so we'll be talking about some of that. Maybe with this rain, sleet, snow mix of everything we're getting tonight, maybe this will be a good opportunity to snow seed. I've done it before, especially if the plot doesn't have a lot of pitch to it. If it's a pretty flat food plot, snow seeding can be very effective. That way you can see your seed on top of the snow. That works really well. Or see your foot tracks in the snow, to be able to see that, pretty well. Especially if you got a day coming when it's going to warm up that day and the snow is going to melt, essentially, to like help get that seed right down to the soil that day. Snow seeding can be very good. Frost seeding, some people call it top sowing. Mud seeding, I've even heard, spring seeding of clover called by farmers specifically. They call it mud seeding clover. So, yeah, we'll probably do that in a couple of the plots that we're switching out. Like I said, switching some stuff out of turnips for the next couple of years, unless it's a relatively new plot or one that didn't have white spot fungus in it. Other than that, like most of it's gonna be something other than turnips this year. So, which is kind of a bummer because we do have food plot seed this year. Waiting to hear back from Seed Contact about pricing and all that stuff. That way I can hopefully keep the price about the same as it was last year when I was selling food plot seed. We're going to have a brassica mix, and I'm probably going to do it like a 2+2 program where you have 2 years turnip mix and then 2 year cereal grain mix. You can flip-flop that field side to side, stuff like that. Maybe we'll call one first half, second half kind of thing for a 4-year rotational plan. And then that way that gets you set for the next 4 years, and you don't end up like me where you have, too many years of trying to play with brassica varieties to get them just right, and you end up with white spot, and it gets a little hard to, get it out of your field. So now you got to switch gears and change your whole kind of game plan you had for the upcoming year because of the factors that you had pop up. So, but yeah, so we'll be putting out the information, obviously, or I'll be putting out the information when I know what the mix is going to be, because I know a bunch of people have already reached out to me about getting seed this year. We'll be doing quarter acre, half acre, full acre bags, and then if you message me for an extra like $5, I'll custom blend that mix to your plot size. So it's a per pound price mix, and then if you wanted it like 0.7 acres, like if your plot was 0.7 acres, and that's what's really key about brassicas, especially. I was at a client's a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at it, and he had a ton of like quarter-sized turnips out on his plot. And the first thing I asked him was, how heavy did you seed it? And I think it was like a half-acre plot, and I think he said he put down like 10 pounds or something, which is pretty darn close to almost double the seeding rate. And I explained to him that, you need that seed spacing with a seed like brassicas. Corn's another good one that you need to be pretty spot on with your measurements with. Clovers can be a little heavier. It's not going to hurt them. Cereal grains can be a little bit heavier. It's not going to hurt them as bad. But if you're looking at like brassicas and corn and stuff like that, they have to go to the seeding rate of that plot. So measure out your plots. Make sure you have the right acreage, so you don't end up with stunted out or nutrition deficiency because there's too many mouths to feed on that plot, so to speak. And they're not struggling and fighting each other for resources because you want to have the best plot you can. Sounds a little weird, but if you put 4 pounds down instead of 6 pounds down on your plot, you could probably yield better turnip size and better leaf production, bulb production from 4 pounds of turnip on that plot versus 6 pounds of turnip on that plot. Just for like rough numbers for like a half-acre plot or whatever. So depending on the varietals too, that'll change a little bit. But, definitely follow that pounds per acre guide. And, like I said, I'm one of the only companies that I know of without reaching out, and like asking specifically if they make specific ones. Like the only one that would mix it specific to your plot size for you for that. So, and I can do local pickup. I shipped it last year too. All the above. So if you are interested, drop me a message. I'll put you on the list. Trying to figure out how much to buy this year because I had to go back and buy more varieties because I ran out last year, and ended up tweaking the mix a little bit for what I put in, and didn't like it as much, so I made note of that because I ended up short because I sold everything, bought some more, but then kind of ran out of some stuff in the in-between for myself. But everybody I sold to got the same mix, which is the mix that I'm going to stay with this year as well. So, and I love the photos I got from clients that bought this year, customers or whatever you want to call them. Love the harvests that were in them. Love the pictures I got of the plots. If you do it right, get your weed control right, your seeding rate right, location right. That's the biggest key I tell everyone with a food plot is make sure it's in that location that works for your property from a hunting perspective. Like we talk about with the tree plantings or the food plots or the stand locations, it all comes back to location is everything with your access on that property. If it's not in a right location on that, it's just like trying to put the wrong puzzle piece in a puzzle. It's not going to work. So, that's the long and the short of it. So, I got to say, I'm going to go with the second glass, which I thought was the new bottle. And it's the first crack out of that bottle, so the fresh cracks can be a little bit harsher too. But the Bottle A, which check out to see if it still hangs on and beats out the Old Elk Weeded this week on the fresh crack. They premiere every week, every Friday at noon. And this is the bottle that's been winning so far. So the Old Elk Weeded is what it's going up against this Friday at noon. And it beat out the new bottle that I got today. So I'm getting so much like appley smell, which I don't remember getting with this one. So it's really good. Again, and that's why, to be fair with this, I wanted to do them blind and mix them up, everything like that, to really be able to pick out what I was liking on each of them. This one, I liked it with the smell of the apple and the taste, which wasn't a thing that I don't think I've ever gotten with that specific bottle of Bowman that we've been drinking. So bottle A is what's won our fresh cracks, what's going against the Old Elk Weeded this week on the Fresh Crack Friday. Short episode tonight. We got to go out, make sure the horses are good, all that good stuff. And, hope everybody's home tonight. Don't have to go anywhere. Don't go anywhere if you don't have to with the roads and the winter weather. I want to thank everyone for tuning into this. If you like it, drop us that thumbs up. Really appreciate it. Really would appreciate you folks subscribing to the channel. That way you get updates on all of our videos, help spread the word, help get us more on the YouTube algorithm for putting in front of more people with the views and the comments and the likes. That really helps out and helps us bring this content to more people and help more people. So, and that's the goal of the channel, is to talk a little bit about the whitetail side of it, the management, food plots, and all that stuff, hunting strategy, and then tying a little bit of that social whiskey and stuff like that into it, and bringing it together and making this channel possible. And we couldn't do it without everybody at home tuning in. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. I would toast you if I had any left, but both of them were so good, I had to finish both my sample pours tonight. So I'll get this poured in the Infinity bottle, which we are getting about a third of the way full for Infinity bottle number 2 for our giveaway. So, and I know Mark, who commented in earlier, is really enjoying his first Infinity bottle that we gave away. So we'll see what this number 2 tastes like. I have high hopes for it, and really enjoyed doing that. Started making more blends and stuff too. So every little thing I do with this is always, just like with the habitat and consulting and stuff, I'm always, playing around, experimenting, trying new things, trying to learn different things, and trying to help folks as best I can along the way. So thank you, everyone, again. I really appreciate all the support that everyone gives me. My wife, obviously, for putting up with me, and everyone at home that tunes into these, likes, comments, gives feedback, and joins the conversation. It means a lot. And catch you all next time down here at the bar with the Whitetails and Whiskey podcast. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.